The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over Lake Evergreen, its calm waters reflecting the pine trees along the shore like a picture from a postcard. I'd come here for the peace, rod in hand, ready to cast my line and forget the stresses of the week. But as I settled on the dock, a sharp voice shattered the tranquility. "Your kind doesn't belong at this community lake," she said, each word dripping with disdain. Susan Hargrove stood there, arms crossed, looking every bit the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood. Little did she know, her words were about to unravel everything she thought she controlled. I turned slowly, keeping my cool. 20 years in the FBI had taught me to stay composed under pressure. "Ma'am, I'm just fishing. Is there a sign saying this is private?" She huffed, her perfectly coiffed hair unmoving in the breeze, and pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police. We can't have people like you ruining our property values." As sirens approached, I wondered how far she'd push this. What she didn't realize was that those officers answered to someone she never expected. The cruiser pulled up, and Officer Ramirez stepped out, his face lighting up with recognition. He'd been in one of my training sessions at the academy, where I'd lectured on bias and de-escalation. "Agent Harlan? From the FBI seminar?" he asked, stunned. Susan, oblivious, pointed at me accusingly. "This man's trespassing. Arrest him now." But Ramirez hesitated, glancing between us. The tension built as a kid nearby, Marcus, started filming discreetly from the trees. That video would change everything. Within hours, the clip exploded online, #Lakegate, racking up millions of views. Comments flooded in. "Classic Karen move," versus "she's just protecting her community." The divide sparked heated debates, with some defending property rights and others calling out racism. Back at my cabin 2 miles away, my phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, old colleagues, they all wanted the story. But I sensed something deeper. Susan's overreaction wasn't just prejudice. It felt calculated, like she was guarding a secret. Digging into my files, I found the investment contract from 2018. I'd poured savings into Lake Evergreen Development LLC as one of 12 founding shareholders, securing permanent access to the lake. It was my way of honoring my dad, a Vietnam vet who'd always dreamed of lakeside living but never got the chance. The HOA Susan ran had conveniently ignored these rights. Was it incompetence or something worse? A call from Agent Sarah Jenkins confirmed my suspicions. "James, that name rings a bell from a 2019 fraud case. Funds from a veterans charity vanished into thin air. We couldn't prove it then, but her confidence screams cover up." The community split wide open. Susan's supporters, mostly older folks worried about standards, rallied on social media. "Outsiders bring trouble," they'd post. But others, seeing the video's ugly undertones, demanded her resignation. In a TV interview, Susan doubled down. "We're building a premier community for those who appreciate excellence." Her eyes gleamed with ambition, hinting at big plans. What if this was about more than one fishing trip? The thought-fueled online arguments: was HOA power a shield for discrimination or a necessary evil? Tensions peaked at the emergency HOA meeting. The room buzzed with over 200 residents, air thick with anticipation. Susan presided like a judge, slamming her gavel. "This is an attack on our way of life," she declared. But when I walked in, portfolio in hand, whispers turned to gasps. "Mrs. Hargrove," I said evenly, "I have every right to be here." I laid out the documents. My shareholder's stake, verified live by the county clerk on speakerphone. James Harlan holds 15%, with irrevocable lake access. The crowd erupted. Susan's face paled. "Those could be fakes," she snapped. But I pressed on, sharing my dad's story, the vet who fought for freedom, only for his son to face exclusion. Veterans in the audience stood, moved, sparking murmurs of support. Then Edward Simmons, a retired CPA, rose with his folder. "I've tracked irregularities for months. HOA funds siphoned to Hargrove Landscaping, her ex-husband's firm, for work that never happened. And that $250,000 assessment? Gone." Chaos ensued. Residents shouted questions. "Where's our money?" Accusations flew, dividing the room, further some loyal to Susan, others furious at the betrayal. Was this theft justified by community protection or pure greed? I called Sarah on speaker. "We need a federal probe." Her response electrified the air. Susan's linked to urban elite developers. They're forcing sales for luxury resorts, using harassment to drive out undesirables. The revelations hit like bombshells. The Thompson family, who'd fled in 2022 after anonymous threats and false reports, testified via video. We were targeted because we didn't fit her vision. More stories poured out: selective fines, employer sabotage. It wasn't isolated bigotry. It was a conspiracy spanning states, blending racism with corporate greed. Debates raged in the room. How far should communities go to preserve values? When does protection become persecution? 2 weeks later, at a special assembly overseen by deputies and my lawyer, Rebecca Klein, the truth climaxed. Evidence packets detailed emails with racist undertones, screen out the wrong demographics. Financial trails showed $400,000 embezzled. Maps revealed targeted properties, minorities, and elders marked for pressure campaigns. Susan exploded. This is a witch hunt. But FBI agents burst in, led by Agent Lopez, my former trainee. Susan Hargrove, you're under arrest for fraud, laundering, and civil rights violations. Handcuffs clicked as the room held its breath. Lopez announced, this ties to a 12-state scheme displacing families for profit. Susan's parting shot, you'll never belong, sealed her fate, igniting final arguments among onlookers. Was her downfall justice or overreach? 3 months on, Lake Evergreen became Lake Harmony, its new sign proclaiming unity. Susan got 18 years, assets seized for restitution. Urban elite collapsed, executives prosecuted. I used my share to fund the Lake Harmony education program, classes on rights and finance for kids like Marcus, who now fished with me regularly. The Thompsons returned to cheers at a barbecue, veterans honored annually on Memorial Day with a plaque for my dad. Reflecting on that dockside clash turning into triumph, I saw how one stand against injustice rebuilt a community. Courage over hatred, inclusion over greed. It proved change is possible. What do you think about the themes of injustice and abuse of power in everyday life? Share your opinions in the comments below. Take a stand on whether such stories highlight necessary reforms or if they exaggerate societal issues. I'd love to hear your views.